Hello, welcome to day 4. Today is really all about movement and breath and how we can use those two elements to bring about emotional balance. Now, it's no secret that I am a huge advocate for yoga, and the reason being primarily, and obviously there's so many other reasons, but primarily the fact that you are moving your body in a way that is stretching and twisting and crunching and opening and constricting and expanding various parts of your body, combined with a really beautiful, slow, deep, intentional breath, can slow down not only your breathing and your heart rate, but can calm your nervous system down tremendously. And so whenever you're practicing yoga, instead of thinking of it as an exercise where you get to increase your heart rate and get a good sweat on, start to think about the practice as being one that is moving energy through your body and contorting your body in a way that is allowing space for either energy to flow or a space for stagnant energy to start moving. Perhaps you're stimulating certain energetic points within the body. So I know there's a lot of poses that will target certain chakras and energy centers and parts of your limbs and organs in general, where if you hold that pose for an extended period of time, you're then breathing into that part of your body, right? So the breath is going to move energy. Your awareness is in that part of the body, and so therefore your energy is already stimulated and all being moved. And so start to think of yoga as an opportunity for you to cleanse your energy channels, for you to allow stagnant energy to start moving, and for you to walk out of a session or off your mat having cleansed energy channels that run through the body. Now, yogis talk about energy channels as nadis, Nadis for plural. And so the idea of a yoga practice is designed to cleanse the nadis, these energy channels. Each pose that you do stimulates a particular energy system. So the root chakra or the throat chakra, or maybe both combined. And so the idea of practicing a yoga practice is not so much about how far you can go into a pose and how much you can stretch and how limber you are, but more about how you can maintain a sense of calm and steady breath as you move through the poses. There are many different styles of yoga. There's hatha yoga and vinyasa yoga. And so there's a difference in the speed and the way in which these classes are taught. But most of the yoga practices that you will attend, whether it be in a studio or online, will be about moving energy. Even if the instructor's not talking about it, the system of yoga, the science of yoga is such that it's meant to stimulate and move energy in your body. And so is the same for Qigong. So this is another style of energy movement practice, and I'm not qualified in that, but I am doing a lot of research and practicing on it myself, and I'm in love with that practice. In fact, I'm expecting some really great Qigong masters and or teachers to come and help us learn this practice in Lessons in Truth, so stay tuned for that. And also other ways of combining the breath and movement as we start to cleanse our energies. So, there are different practices for each one of the chakras, and I haven't mentioned anything about the throat chakra, and so now is a really good time to mention that speaking, chanting, singing really does help to stimulate movement in the throat chakra. And so I also have some really great teachers and yogis who have been practicing mantra and chanting, who are going to be joining us in Lessons in Truth to really help us understand not only the mechanics, but why and how we can chant and move energy through the throat center. The throat center in particular is our center for choice, right? It's everything. Because if we have balanced chakras that are in the lower parts of the body, so the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, these are the lower centers, and then from the heart up are the higher centers. If we have balanced chakras all the way up until the heart, if everything is kind of ticking along smoothly, but the heart is blocked or the throat is blocked or clogged, then we won't have the ability to speak our truth. We won't know how to express ourselves. We'll find that there's always some sort of stagnation in at the throat center, so that we don't know how to say what we want to say, or we're too frightened to say what we want to say, or we feel like if we do say the way we feel, then we will be X, Y, Z, fill in the blank. And so learning how to move energy through the throat center doesn't necessarily have to be through a yoga practice or a qigong practice or anything that is energetically inclined, an energetically inclined movement practice. But you can do it by simply speaking or chanting or singing, right? So there are many different ways for us to move energy in the body that don't require us to get up and do jumping jacks, okay? Now, I mentioned that I was going to talk a little bit about how certain organs express specific emotions. So when you have a thought, right, that thought creates an electrical charge in the brain. And when we have that thought that's electrically charged, that thought will make its way into our body and we'll start to get a feeling, right? The emotion creates a feeling in the body. So the thought is energy, the energy in motion is the emotion, and then it moves its way into our physical body and we get a feeling. That's a feeling, we feel it in our bodies. And so a lot of the times when we're not aware of our thoughts and the emotions that those thoughts create, we may do one of many things, including suppress the thought or emotion, numb out the feeling that we have. So we get let's say you're at work and you have a thought that brings about anxiety as an emotion, and you start to get the feeling of anxiety in your belly and your belly knots. And instead of actually understanding where that thought originated from, what triggered the thought, how that thought then processed its way through the body into the belly, we then take an allopathic medicine to help us fix the problem. We put a band-aid over the problem without actually understanding where that thought originated from. What was that thought created from? Why were we triggered by our circumstance? You see? And so each organ, each part of the body will house a different suppressed feeling, suppressed emotion. So for example, the knees represent fear. So when you're fearful and you don't acknowledge your fear and know where that fear is coming from or how it's been triggered, if you for a long enough period of time band-aid that fear, maybe you are numbing out with alcohol, maybe you are Netflixing it or doing other things that feel like you're not focusing on the issue at hand or the trigger at hand, over time you will start to feel dis-ease or disease in your knees, and that will all have originated from fear. Right? So this takes time. It doesn't happen in, once you think about something that's fearful, you suppress it, and all of a sudden you have a knee condition. It doesn't work that way. It's a long period of time where you're not looking at your physical body as a language. It's speaking a language to you. And so quite often when you start to feel it in your physical body, the feelings, this is a good sign for you to go, oh, okay, so I'm feeling a little bit tense in my right shoulder. There was nothing that I did yesterday that could have created the tension. I wonder why. And if you look up, I have a lot of resources that we'll be talking about in Lessons of Truth, but if you look up the whole purpose of the right shoulder, you have the shoulder is the weight of the world, feeling responsibility, feeling like you are overly responsible for things, and right being part of the masculine. And that's not to say the men in your life or you as a masculine energy. It's just the action part of your life. So maybe you're running a business and you feel like there is so much responsibility to keep the wheels ticking along, and all you're doing is just action, 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 and yet nothing seems to work. You're just feeling overwhelmed and over inundated with responsibility. Well, if you're not accessing or acknowledging that emotion, that trigger that's made you feel overwhelmed, over time you'll start to get a sore shoulder. And if you don't have the tools and the awareness to notice that, what starts to happen is you get a niggle in your right shoulder. You're ignoring it. Maybe you take some anti-inflam, maybe you just kind of don't move your right arm too much because you think that this is going to get better by just keeping it still. And then you start to overwork your left arm because you can't move your right arm. Do you see how one thing then leads to the other? When in actual fact, if you were just to stop in a stillness practice every morning and notice how your body feels, do a little body scan, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. You do a little body scan, notice where you've got niggles, and then write that down so that you have something to work with, something to work back from. Now, remembering when you feel it in your body, this is kind of the point where, your body's just giving you a little bit of a tap and just being like, hey, remember me? I got something to tell you. Are you going to listen? Listen in. It's not going to scream. It's not going to speak loudly. Sometimes it will. Maybe you'll have like an injury. But more often than not, these tiny little niggles, they start off really quietly, like little whispers. And if you ignore them for long enough, you're actually going to experience some dis-ease. And unfortunately, even dis-ease. So this practice here is a body scan. I want you to imagine that this body scan, it's only going to take 5 minutes, but that it's like you with, your investigator hat on, looking through your body to notice where you feel any niggles, any sorts of, tightness or tense areas in the body, and have a little notebook next to you where you can just write that down, right? And then pop it into the comments or send me an email or tag me on Instagram and ask me the question as to where you're feeling this little niggle, and I will translate that for you. I'll translate it for you and tell you what is the emotional properties of what you're experiencing in the secret language of your body. And that way you'll be able to look at that little explanation or that description and start to reverse engineer it to see whether or not this is something that you are actually experiencing in your life, and then work your way through that so that you can come through to the other side knowing that you have worked through that trauma or that trigger or whatever it is that arm, leg, body part represents. Okay, so this is a 5-minute body scan, eyes closed, notebook next to you, and just start to write down what comes up for you. This is an audio track, so there's no visual. This is just the explanation on how to work through it. And remember to let me know of anything that came up for you, all right, as part of this practice. All right, guys. As always, enjoy, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.